Hey everyone, it's Terry from the Southern Jacker. Welcome back to my channel today. And today I thought we'd do a quick tutorial on how I've made these cute little tuck envelopes to go into my junk journals. I've got 4 here that I've actually made. And I loved how the colors of them turned out. And let me show you how I utilize them in my journals. So this is one that I'm currently working on. And typically in the back or the front cover, I would actually take them and just glue down the inner edge and the bottom. And by doing that, you have a tuck here. You actually have an envelope there. And then it leaves this open to where you can do tucks on this side as well. So that's how I would use them. They turned out very cute. I kind of leave the inside just as a paper. Normally, if you're just looking at that, my eye would think, well, why is that not decorated? However, that's what gives it its different texture as far as look. So absolutely loved how these turned out. So let's get started in showing you how to make them. So the supplies that you'll need for these are these envelopes, and I bought these by mistake from Hobby Lobby. So I thought they were your normal envelopes just in craft that had the flap on the long side here, but when I got home and opened them up, they were actually the long envelopes, which I was kind of disappointed. And then I got to thinking, well, I'm not able to use them because I normally don't do a journal in that length. So I was trying to be creative and figure out how I would actually do this. So these are the Paper Studio brand. You can get them half off every other week at Hobby Lobby. And so you will need those. You will also need scrap paper, and I'm going to show you kind of how I think out my thought process on the colors, and then I'll give you the dimensions as well. You're going to need an ATC card. An artist trading card is basically the size that I use for my bottom part of this. You can get them all over Etsy. I actually downloaded mine from Etsy. I'm not for sure of the shop, but everybody has what they call ATC cards, and they're the perfect size for it. You're going to need your ink for distressing, of course your glue, and these decorative, I don't know if you call them brads. These are from Hobby Lobby as well, and they are Paper Studio, so they're half off. So this comes in a pack of the different colors. You can also get the pearl. They're super cute. I always buy them and keep them on hand. There's another pearl. Different colors. Different colors. You could also use the Tim Holtz numbers or anything like the number embellishments as well. And then lastly, you're going to need just a few of your supplies. I have scissors, I have a hole punch, my bone folder, and my pen. I have both of those as well. So let me share with you my thought process on picking out my color combinations that I'm going to use for my scrap paper. So I start by picking out what I'm going to do at the bottom, which is my ATC card. I think the measurements on that is about 2 1/4 by 3 1/2, and they fit perfectly on here. I like to leave a little bit of a border around my craft envelope. I think it gives it a little bit more interest. And then what I do after that is I will pick my background and then my flips. So typically I do my ATC card. I do a busy background, and then I do more of a solid color when it comes to the flip. And I'll show you how we get those cut to process. So the very first thing we do is we want to start out with the actual envelope, and I distress all around it. You want everything distressed. I don't worry about doing the back of it, but I do do the bottom, and then just up just a little bit, because that's going to be flipped up for us to see. So I distress that a little bit. Okay, and what I do is I just take this over and kind of eyeball it. So again, I'm going to leave a little bit of a border and a little bit of a border at the bottom as well. And once I get that placed, then I take my bone folder and I just crease it down. Kind of lay it there, eyeball it. Perfect. So I distress around my card. I'm taking glue. We're going to go ahead and glue this down. I swear I'm the messiest gluer ever. Hold that down. Make sure you get it placed. Take off any of the glue. And see how that gives that a little bit of border. I like that when I use anything craft, like craft paper, the craft color. So that's set. Next we want to do what's behind. And again, so this is what I picked to be a little bit of a busy pattern. So, and I kind of try to stay within a little bit of my color theme. I always want to bring out a little bit of pop maybe of the little colors that you have there. So basically what I have done is I have cut this piece, and I'll put your measurements down, 3 5/8 across by 6 inches down, and it fits perfectly in there. Again, and it gives you that little border as well. So I'm going to distress this. You can distress and come in as little as much as you want to. Some people don't like to distress, and that's fine too. I just think it makes it pop out just a little bit from the paper when you do that. And I'm using Antique Photo, which is pretty much my go-to. I'm going to do the same thing here. We're going to put this down. And you want to make sure not to go over that little flippy lid right there as you're doing it. And again, it's got that little bit of a border, so I make sure that it's even. And we're going to glue that down here in a minute. So we've got that part done. And next we want to cut our paper for our flaps. And you're going to do 2 of these. And again, I always try to make this a solid color. And this doesn't really match that blue, but it does give it the pop. So that's why I like to do that, because it's not going to be solid when we're done. It's actually going to have, that's going to break it up a little bit to tie everything in. So the way we figure out our pieces of this is very simple. I'll show you. We've got a piece of paper here, and you can see where I've actually have already drawn one out. measurements right there. So what I have done is I've opened up that lid. I just take it on that piece of paper, line it up here at the bottom. I take my pen and I draw around the outside, and then I cut it. I cut it out, and you want to do that twice. But one thing I do want to show you, if you can see it, okay, there is the line on the outside. I cut just a little bit to the inside, because by doing that, it's going to still give you where that border is showing. See how we've got the border? So you're going to do that twice, because you want one for the inside and you want one for the outside of your lid as well. So we're going to do just the first one first, the top one first. And even if your color is dark, like the next one I'm doing has a dark brown cover for the flip on it, I still distress the ends, because they do have the white, and you don't want that to really see when you're looking at different sides of the actual envelope. Okay, let's get that glued down. And mine aren't perfect by any means. I'm not a great half moon cutter. And then why I let that dry, get it as center as you can. Why I let that dry, I'm going ahead and going to glue these two sides down, so we'll have that tuck spot in there. So I'm simply putting a little glue on this side and a little glue on this side. Got a little string there, and taking that off. Flip it over. Hold that down for a minute or so. Okay. Pressing those sides good. Okay, and the next thing that we want to do is we want to do our finishing brad. The reason why we want to do that before we do our other flap is because you have the other side of that is going to be sticking out. So you want to make sure that that covers it. So this is when we take our hole punch and we're going to punch that in. But the one thing that you need to make sure is that you go in quite a bit. The reason you do is because if you put the hole towards the end, then this is going to stick out some. So you want to make sure you get that hole. So you can either mark it or you can eyeball it. And I'm going to eyeball it. Make sure it's a little center. Take my brad through. See, I've got plenty of room there at the bottom. Secure that on the back side. And now it's ready for that to be distressed and add to cover it up. Distress, and I don't know if you can see on camera well, but you see that white edge. So even if you don't want it distressed where it shows, always at least distress that edge so that white doesn't show through. And if you use a thinner paper, this one actually happens to be a pretty substantial piece of scrapbook paper. It's pretty thick, so it's not an issue with going over this like it is. And it doesn't really show it as being like a little bubble. Now, if you were using a thinner piece, then I would suggest taping the back down with masking paper and then putting that over it just to give it a little less bubble there at the top. And there you have it. So let's do one more. I'll kind of show you here. And again, I got my stuff is already picked out. And this one happens to be a thin one, so I'll show you exactly what we're talking about on here. So very, very, very simple. So keep in mind, and I'm sure this has been done before, but in everything we do, we've always bought things that have been mistakes. And this envelope was a mistake, but I'll be darned if I was going to waste it and let it sit there. And actually I've had it about 3 or 4 months, and I keep looking at it and frustrate myself because I'm like, I need to use this. I need to get this out of my stash. Now if we get a little bit down that back side there, not much, because this is just going to be the area that shows. So it just helps if you kind of try to think outside the box and see what it takes you on making something creative. Once you get the hang of it, super simple to make. Make sure I got that. Not sure if I did that on the other one or not. And I do not think I did. I eventually would have caught that. I never was a fan of ATC cards either, because I thought, and again, that's artist trading cards, that size, because I thought, I just don't really use them a lot. And some downloads that I have purchased off Etsy have kind of been a mistake where I did not pay attention to the size, and they ended up being the ATC size. So this is a super cute way to use those. And I'm always wanting to put some type of big tuck or envelope in the back of my journals, because those are usually your sturdiest pages that you can use for those. And I so have that love-hate relationship with Fabri-Tac. It's the best stuff out there, I get it. But man, do I get it everywhere. I always just have to double check myself just to make sure those edges line up good. Glued and glued. Let's give this just a second more, and we did that other one. Okay, and this is what I was talking about. This one doesn't need de-stressing. However, I just want to take that white of the end of that scrapbook paper off both of those. And this one's the very thin paper, so we will definitely need to use the masking on the brad once we have that. Let's grab our hole punch. Make sure we go in, get it to center. This time I'm using the one with the little rhinestone. Pop it in. This one I will actually take just a little piece of masking tape on the back of that. Get that down good. Let that dry. And voila. There we go, everybody. Simple. Very, very sturdy too for your pages for your journals. So if you like the tutorial, please make sure you hit like and subscribe to my channel. Hit the bell if you want notifications. I'm going to start doing about 3 videos a week. So 2 tutorials and a flip throughs of my journals that I create every week. So look forward to seeing you. Thanks, everyone.